Okay, so welcome to the Board of Civil Authority meeting, February 19th, 2025. And everyone has taken the oath of office. Yay! So we can open for public to be heard. And there does not appear to be anyone. And so I'm going to pause the recording so we can do introductions and discussion about people who have interest in serving as chair of the board or vice chair before we do board reorganization. So I think I can pause. Record. So we will move to item number 3, board reorganization. Are there any motions for chair or vice chair of the board?
It's customary to nominate.
Oh, nomination, sorry.
I'd like to be the voice that nominates Tom Chaney for chair and Megan for vice chair.
And I would second.
Okay, Tom Jocelyn second.
And Kathleen Creamer.
You can take one and I can take the other. How's that, Tom?
Yeah, sure.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, so we move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes carry it. So I get to turn the meeting over to you. So congratulations.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vice Chair. I think we should just take a moment to thank Mike. And Megan already started to do that. You know, as long as I've been on the board, Mike has been a voice of reason, a steady hand, and just a wealth of knowledge. Also just a great listener and empathetic. And I think that's really important. And so just wanted to say thank you to Mike for his years of service in the role, and just express so much gratitude for your service to Jericho.
You're here.
Thank you.
So we can clap.
Thanks.
All right.
And I would say my hope is that Mike may continue to be our chair of the Board of Abatement. That will not be a role that I will look to fill. So I'll just throw that out there. So on to the agenda, the 2025 tasks, and I suspect I should turn this over to you, Jessica, to walk us through what our year looks like.
Okay, do I? Oh, so we are up there. Yes. That is it. That's just a listing. So because it's an odd year, we're not anticipating as many elections. And that is a time statutorily that we need to review the checklist to make sure that everyone on the checklist is a resident of Jericho. So in August, we will probably do a meeting to go through that, and I can do prep work ahead to see you know, who's either moved out of town with property sales, or if we have return mail, you know, sort of using different information for that. And then when you're at the polls in March, looking at the checklist, if you see names that you're seeing on the checklist that maybe should be challenged, that's a good time just to write them down, and then we'll do a organized challenge in August. So March town meeting is the only election anticipated in 2025, but I know there's a rolling petition out there for the select board members to go from 3 to 5, and I anticipate that will probably be a special meeting this year. Do you want to
Ask about that petition. I guess that I heard there were like 500 out of 650 signatures required, so it's possible that I meet that threshold this year.
And then there might be an additional election after that if it passes to elect the 2 additional select board members.
When would if that petition reaches the threshold, when would that be scheduled? How long?
it's the petitioners are the ones that would organize that. They could either, they did not put a date on the petition, so it could be put to the town, and then the select board would have to schedule an election within 45 days, I think, of receiving the petition. Or they could wait and time it so that it falls in line with town meeting in March of 2026. But either way, there'd be a second election after that if it passed to elect a.
Is that, would that be a change to the town bylaws?
No, our charter actually allows to go from 3 to 5 or back from 5 to 3. But it requires a petition of 15% of the voters to sign. The polling place activities policy, we did update during COVID because we were using the back entrance of the school. So there's some language in there about keeping safe distances, and I've sort of just kept it there because we don't normally use the back entrance. We use the front entrance, but find out more about, safety at the polling place. We may want to look at revisiting the polling place activities policy and updating that this year. And then along with that, the emergency response plan, I would, since it's not a busy election year, this might be a good time to kind of brainstorm more about that and have something in place for 2026. So that's the tasks that I've outlined.
Great. Does anybody have anything else that you think we might want to focus on as a board this year? Anything missing on this list from your perspective?
I wonder if this would be a good year to work on an actual election manual that when somebody is going to help out at the polls, you can just hand it to them. Say, here are the routine things. Here are the extraordinary things. Here are the people that will be at the election that can help you with the extraordinary things. And here's how to do all the routine things. And so theoretically, we have until November, March of 2026 to get that put together.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And then, of course, the legislative changes kind of upend up that seems like every even year we have new things going through. But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Speaking of legislative changes, I understand that the legislature is looking at taking away the board of
Tax deals.
appeal from the justices of the peace. Moving it to a statewide program or group or something.
So they be heard at the state level rather than the town.
Yeah, I think that the idea behind it was that very few of us, or maybe none of us, have any idea how to do tax appraisal, property appraisals. So kind of by what seems to make sense. Having a board that actually knows what it all means.
There's a logic to that.
Yeah,
Does the state have training for volunteers in that area?
For tax appeals?
Yeah.
Generally, the training's been through the Secretary of State's office, so I don't know if that's something that they're gonna focus on. Same with Board of Abatement and Vermont League of Cities and Towns has done training with Board of Abatement too.
Anything else? I think that once we have an election manual, which is a great idea, we may want to, particularly with newer members of the board, Justice of the Peace, but also our volunteers, have a real formal in-person training that maybe walks through the major components of that manual. Might be a good a good way to test drive the manual and, just do a deep, thorough training for folks, particularly newer folks. Something maybe we would do a year from now, as we head to town meeting, maybe. Anything else before we move on to the minutes? Okay. We'll stay busy this year. I mean, that's not a
Yes.
small list, even if we don't have a lot of elections or may not have a lot of elections. Let's get a review of last meeting's minutes, and Jessica has shared them.
I think I shared them on the screen, and when I sent them out in December, I had Michelle Toulis listed both as being present and not present, so that correction has already been made. Thank you, Michelle, for pointing it out. And then I also had something in the agenda items. I had carried over something from the October minutes, but it wasn't agenda item for the December meeting, so I've taken that out. But so this is what I sent in February to everyone, that this is the update with those two changes. And so I don't know if there's.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, any amendments to the minutes, or are we ready to vote on it?
Move to approve this as corrected previously.
It's Kathy. Now I see a second.
Second.
Mike. Thank you, everybody. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And because this is minutes, sometimes not everybody's here. Any abstentions?
I was not there, so I'll say.
Looks like the motion carries. Thank you. And now to the checklist. Do we want to start with additions? I guess that's you.
Yep, I can actually share that, so. Try to figure out how to make this smaller. And. So and I can make this bigger. So this is it for additions since December. And a new little quirk in January, the Secretary of State with the DMV, they started flagging people that were renewing their driver's license that weren't 18 yet, but they would be 18 by the November 2026 election. So I didn't realize that when I was going through until I printed this list and realized that the fourth name down, Jada Dostal, she was actually born in 2008. So her birthday was in January. So she will be 18 for the November 2026 election, but I already I need to follow up with her with a letter to let her know that she won't be voting in local elections. The good thing is her name will not print on the local election checklist. It only prints voters that have already reached 18, but with the primary elections, when federal election, it would show her name. And then the only reason I have Beatrice Molson highlighted is she will need to take the voter's oath. So those two that are highlighted have not taken the voter's oath. So I think it might be 16 plus Jada Dostal, who would sort of be pending until she's turned 18. And do you want to move to deletions?
Yeah, sure. We can take it one motion.
So there are 11 deletions of voters that have transferred from Jericho to a new town in Vermont. And this legal address that shows is their address in their new town. And oh, good, so there's been something going on with the DMV. Oh, actually, yeah, so she transferred July 9th to Randolph, and then I got something from the DMV to add her back. And I was like, well, that's kind of odd, moving twice in January. And so I actually emailed her and I was like, was it your intention to register in Randolph or Jericho? And her intention was to register in Randolph, but we used an old Jericho address when they added her. So that was, so we may see in the next update here that she'll be both a addition and deletion.
And she's on there twice as.
Oh, is she already on there twice? Oh, okay.
deletion.
Okay, so that's why she's on there twice. So it already has happened.
Once in January and once in February.
February 12th, okay. I didn't even realize that she was listed there twice. So that's her story.
How does everything look on both lists for folks?
There's one more list.
Sorry.
This is voters who are being purged, so they've either moved to another state outside of Vermont, or they have signed something that their intent is to be taken off the Jericho checklist because they're moving, or if they have died. So there are 14 in that category.
Okay. I'd make a motion to approve the additions and deletions as presented. Second.
Peter and Mike, thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Moving right along. So now this next, and no, not the last, but almost the last step today is to talk about the role of the BCA. So it looks like you've got some things that maybe you want to go through, Jessica.
I just carried this over from the odd year, and every February odd year when we do reorganization, just as a reminder for people, particularly I think the quorums, where to have a Board of Civil Authority meeting, it's the quorum is just 3, but the quorums get harder when the Board of Tax Abatement, there's actually 2 different ways to get a quorum, but the Board of Tax Abatement includes the Justices of the Peace, Town Clerk, the Select Board, Town Treasurer, and the Listers. So there's actually 20 positions. And we need a majority of those people present. And so having 11 people present is sometimes tricky to schedule. There is a second way to get a Board of Abatement quorum, and that is the majority of the Select Board, the majority of the Listers, and the Treasurer being present. And then, like, Peter is actually representing 2 positions as a Select Board member and a Justice of the Peace, but he only counts as 1 person. So that is another, challenge to getting a quorum of 11 members.
It'd be great if you could count as 2.
Yeah, it'd be easier if you, and then Board of Tax Appeals.
2 votes.
That's just 3 members to become a quorum, but we like to have as many members possible when we have a Board of Tax Appeal meeting, because 3 of those members will have to go on a site inspection. So,
It seems like we should try to have a majority of, the members of each board available just in good practice, right? But it's interesting that it only requires 3 for both the BCA, the Board of Tax Appeals. So the next piece is performing marriages. And this is a discretionary duty, so this is one of those things that we can do or we can say no to.
and same goes for notary.
Yeah.
And I do have the certificate of the election. That if you do want to apply to become a notary, that's the form that you would upload to become an ex officio notary through the appointment is through the OPR, the Secretary of State's office.
And there is a fee to be a notary, right?
No, as a justice of the peace, the fee is
The fee's paid.
waived, yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments about the role of the Board of Civil Authority or position of Justice of the Peace?
I have a question for Jessica. Jessica, about how many civil marriages get performed in the town in a given year? That probably varies, but
I think it's
Sensitive.
20 to 30. And what's interesting is I don't know when it started, like 2015 or 16, when people could become an officiant for the day, pay $100 to the Secretary of State's office, and that could be a person in state or out of state to perform a marriage in Vermont. That has become very popular. So the majority of the marriages that come through, I think, is an officiant for the day, generally a family member of the wedding party.
and then I have a follow-up question. As justices of the peace in Vermont, do we have the authority to perform civil marriages outside of Vermont or no?
Only in Vermont.
I didn't know
If you
about
want
that.
to do a marriage outside of Vermont, you can go online and become an official at
Universal Life Church?
Universal Life Church. Right.
But I'm marrying a friend of mine in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire, they have like reciprocity. Like I sent a thing in and they say like, why are you allowed to do marriages in Vermont? And I said, Justice of the Peace. And then they gave me like a license good for whatever period of time.
Oh, really?
As a JP, yeah, since I'm a JP here, you have to be able to do marriages where you're from, and then they'll accept that in New Hampshire for a short window of time, like 90 days or something.
Does Maine have a similar arrangement, you
I don't
know?
know.
Did you go through the Secretary of State in New Hampshire, or how did you find that out?
I just Googled it
Okay.
and found some state agency in New Hampshire and called them and I said, yeah, well, here's the full state of the form, and just fill the form out and send it back with a check for $5 and there you go. And I did a wedding half an hour ago in Essex for a friend of mine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were talking about, and he was saying, yeah, he used to do marriages all the time, but like not anymore. And that's why, because you can be a one-day officiant.
Right.
There's
Like,
also
20 years ago, we used to do a ton of marriages, like 3 or 4 every single year.
There's also a Burlington Justice of the Peace who like advertises, she's
Oh,
a
really?
Justice of the Peace and a flower arranger, and I don't know if
Oh,
she
like
makes
a
wedding
whole
cakes
package, like a
too,
whole
yeah.
one-stop shopping.
Yeah, so generally, there have been people from Jericho or that have gotten a license in Jericho that have used her because they were like wanting to get everything done
Just
like
have it all done.
tomorrow
Yeah,
or whatever, and
yeah.
she's so she advertises that way.
I would just like to remind people to be very cautious about selectively doing weddings. If you're gonna do them, do them. If you're not gonna do them, don't do them. But you will get in trouble if you decide that you are going to do male and female weddings, but not same-sex weddings.
And trouble being not trouble, it's not against the law, but it could be challenging.
I think it's discrimination.
Or sorry, you're right, sorry, yeah.
I've received some kind of scammy emails.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Asking about availability that are questionable.
Yeah, with that scene, I think that the Secretary of State has flagged some of those. I don't know what the proper procedure, but we may want to create a procedure for ourselves so that we're checking in with each other to see if we're getting these, and then maybe it's reporting to Jessica, and then Jessica can say, it seems like a sufficient number of us have received these emails, heads up, this feels like a scam. But maybe that's something we can talk about, because that has happened a lot
Yeah.
frequently, and it may make sense for us to.
That gives me a question. I was like, I was getting those emails, I just ignored them because they look scammy.
Yeah.
But like I think other people have emailed me asking, for a wedding, like, and they want me to do it the next day. And I just kind of like ignored the email. Is that like a refusal? Like, is that like, then I have no idea who they are. Am I just refusing somebody? Like, if I have no idea, but is that somehow gonna like get me swept up in some kind of discrimination thing? Like, I just didn't, okay, so I don't have to give cause.
Especially at that level, well, like, when I didn't see the email, sorry, Your Honor, like.
Right, okay, yeah.
As opposed to like, oh, I met them, oh, it's two women and I don't do that, that's.
Oh, okay, yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Gotta be pretty explicit, I think,
Okay.
to go to that level.
I see, all right.
And it seems like a lot of these come to multiple of us, the real ones and the fake ones.
Mhm.
So, you can usually feel like someone else probably got it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's been, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it passed 2 years ago that 18 is now the statewide age,
Good to know.
which is still
Was it younger before?
Is that
frightening.
lower or older?
It was 60.
It was
Was
16 with parental consent.
And now
That's not a case anymore?
No, I believe now it's 18
Yeah,
18.
in Vermont,
with that,
No
yeah,
it's state by state.
right.
Yeah,
But Vermont was one of the last states to
okay.
raise the age.
And that would be something that well, I guess we could perform marriages. Well, they would have to come with a marriage license, and so that whoever's the town clerk issuing that license would be
Yeah.
checking that, so.
You don't have
we
to ask
shouldn't
the question, if
worry
they have a license.
about that.
Their birthday is actually on the
Right.
license.
Everything.
So 2 follow-ups. One thing I did hear when Deb Markowitz was Secretary of State is if you became a JP and wanted to perform a marriage, just wanted to do your daughter's wedding or something, so just for family, that seemed to be an acceptable discretion, that you could just say, oh, I only became a JP because I wanted to, do this one wedding or something, so that seemed to be an acceptable discretion. And then with the scamming, on our website right now, everyone's name is listed on the Justice of the Peace page, but the contact information is optional as to what you want on there, and most people do have their email and phone, although Jen, I haven't confirmed with you what you would want on that page. But I think that's probably where scammers get the information. But I don't actually know at the state level, they ask for email address and mailing address from me when the new justices are elected. And I don't know if that's somehow publicized or not, or if I don't have an email for someone, I don't send it to the Secretary of State's office, but so I think you may have taken your phone number off,
I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
but
It's off, I'm looking
Oh,
at,
it is?
okay, yeah.
we're not looking.
So yeah, if people can check that page to see if they want to change anything, I can take information down or add information. And Jen, you can let me know what you want on the page.
My instinct is that anything that is shared with the Secretary of State probably is public. Whether they publish it or not, I think is another question. But if someone will request it, I suspect we would have to give it, but I don't know. It would seem like it.
That
Yeah,
would make sense.
It would seem like it.
with the notary, they do put people's home addresses on the page, which I had a previous assistant who wasn't comfortable with that.
Yeah, I can understand that. Anything else before we move on to the second to last agenda item? Sounds good. Is there I think in the past years, maybe you've brought or maybe emailed, the justice of the peace document that the Secretary of State's office created, I feel like hasn't been updated for some.
2019
Yeah.
is the actual, so that there is a link to that on our
It's on our page.
webpage.
so-
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the current Secretary of State will update that.
Freshen it up.
Um,
But that's there for us, probably a good thing for us to all review. I'm saying this partially for myself, at the beginning of our term.
do you want me to send that link out when I send the minutes?
Sure, since you're also has to check our contact info, just to make sure we all have that. That's
Okay.
great. Just maybe the town page if it's all on there. Yeah.
Can I ask you one more question about marriages? Like when we do marriage and we sign the marriage license, is it our job to bring it here or is it the marriage people? It's our job to bring it
Your
here.
job, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And you can mail it or physically bring it.
Yeah, if it's coming back to Jericho, the Dropbox is available. And there is a thing on there that says it should be received back within 10 days of the ceremony, but that's not, if it's received later than 10 days, it's not gonna
Void the marriage.
void it or anything.
But it is good practice. We want to get it out of your hands
Yeah.
as soon as you can, so you don't find it. Oh, crap, I forgot.
Important document.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And black pen, they like you to
Yeah.
use black pen. And generally, when I get it back, people have already prepaid for a certified copy to be mailed to them, so any delay, can delay that. And then I send them to the state, they get a state copy, so that later, if someone's looking for a copy of their marriage license, they can get it from the town that issued it, or they can go through, Department of Health.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. So now discussion about open meeting law and the town website updates.
Oh,
We kind of
I
covered
guess
this
I
a little
merged
bit.
it, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Yep, perfect. Any other? No, I guess you kind of covered it. Great. Any business related to our town meeting? I was wrong, there's more agenda items on the other page.
So one piece as far as absentee ballots, so right now there's actually 90 ballots out, which is kind of higher than what I would anticipate town meeting. And 4 are back already, 4 people have voted. But I don't anticipate that we'll have a lot. We'll probably have 200 to 300 at the most. So I think we can process them on election day. And one thing I did put on this whiteboard is Sunday, March 2nd. I will be putting when the ballot comes back, it's still in the signature envelope, but in the electronic checklist, I check off that it's been returned so that when the checklist gets printed for election day, it will already show that a ballot's been received from that person. But on Sunday, I'm gonna try to get them in batches of 80. So that they're easier so they're pre-checked in absentee ballots, so they're a little bit easier to process. But I print out the sheet from the electronic checklist and we make sure that they are, accounted for on that list. Because it's easier to find a mistake before the day of the election. So if there's someone who wants to join me at 3 o'clock on Sunday, March 2nd, or I could do it later, but I'm just probably looking for one person to help with that. The other thing at the top is next Wednesday, February 26th, we've been doing a mobile polling place for Jerry Hill, and it's been well received. Last year was the presidential primary, so we were there for the March, August and November. And I don't know, it's 19, 20 residents there. And generally it's about 6 people that we get, but we're also registering new voters and some of, answering questions more just about the voting process. So I didn't know if there is interest at Jerry Hill, and so if we wanted to do a mobile polling place, it would be Wednesdays, what works for them. And it would be 2 justices of the peace or 2 BCA members. And we would just be there from 11 to noon. So,
I do that if it's needed.
I'm just gonna write you on the whiteboard, so
So for those, if you haven't caught it on remotely, you probably have by now. There's a whiteboard right next to the TV where we're watching you. And we're just signing folks up for these different tasks, starting with the Jerry Hill mobile polling place on the 26th, Wednesday, the 26th.
So that-
Kathy has said she'd like to do that. We need one more person.
and I will go too, but I won't be,
I enjoyed when I did it, but I have an appointment in the morning that
Okay.
would overlap already.
So we'd be meeting at town hall at 10:30 and then we have to travel with the ballots together from 11 to noon.
I'm out of town, all next week. Sorry.
I have an appointment that's at 11.
Trying to think who's not here.
Does it have to be 2 BCA members?
I think it's to travel with ballots, it's 2 BCA members,
Okay.
but I was actually gonna run it by the Secretary of State's office.
Because
Because
Mary likes doing that.
in the interest of political party balance, yeah, having a,
You are a BCA member.
I'm a BCA member, but I'm on the ballot.
Yeah.
I see.
Jessica, I can help out on the 26th.
Okay,
Awesome.
I
Thanks,
think
Carol.
you may have done it once before, right?
I did.
Okay, so,
I can think about it. So we got
Oh.
Kathy and Carol. Awesome.
Oops.
So then we're looking.
I can do the Sunday thing if you want to do it on.
would you prefer 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock at night?
3 o'clock in the afternoon. Would be that.
Awesome.
That just one person?
Yep.
Okay.
And Friday, the 28th, which is actually next Friday,
Yeah, this
is
is-
setting up the polling place at the school. And yeah, great. We have Tom Jocelyn.
And
Yeah.
I can do takedown on Tuesday as well.
Okay.
This
So,
is your jam, right?
Unless, somebody else. wants to.
and Megan will come with that too. So we'll meet here at Town Hall at noon
Okay.
and drive over. And so that actually brings us to Tuesday, March 4th. So for Jen, we generally have 3-hour shifts, and the first one, 6:45 in the morning to 9:30, 9:30 to 12:30, 12:30 to 3:30, 3:30 to 7, 6:45 to end. And then this is important, 2 members of the BCA to transport ballots from Mount Mansfield to Camel's Hump. This is the school ballots, then go through the vote tabulator after 7 o'clock, all 5 towns commingled. And that can sometimes run late, like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Why did that run so late?
It's out of my control,
We just, do we need to stay?
yes,
To
they,
process the ballots.
There have been towns in the past that have just dropped off their ballots and left Richmond to do everything, and
Oh, I
that's
see,
not
I see,
fair.
I see. We're just dumping our problems on them and they have to stay there all night.
So they've actually created
Are there-
a
is there-
policy.
Is there something to do, or you're just sitting there?
No, you're feeding them through the machine, and now with that extra 4 minute or 4 second. 4 minutes would be hard,
4 minutes.
the 4 second beep, but they do have 3 machines going.
So is there's no hand counting anything? Or
For the
person
school-
counting, whatever?
There was a time where some of the ballots were coded that they weren't going through the machine for some reason, and so they were being hand counted. And a mistake that was done that time was they were counted by town, and the whole purpose is to actually commingle it amongst the 5 towns. So
Yeah.
that's, by using the tabulator, Richmond can start as soon after 7 as they want, because they're being commingled in the tabulator.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty much like how it was done in Johnson too.
And the MMU ballot, besides the budget, they also have for the clerk of the board or clerk of the district, treasurer of the district, and moderator, I think, for the district. So there's 3 races on the ballot as well. So
That's
it-
relatively new. That used to be done at the school board meeting.
as a voice vote, yeah, so that's now by ballot, so that makes the ballot a little more complicated to do a hand tally with.
So 2 per shift, that's all the coverage?
I'm hoping to have at least 2 BCA members in each shift. And that way, if there's a question or something that comes up, we will.
So is this process right here replacing the spreadsheet usually?
No, this is actually collecting information tonight that I will put into an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Jump in.
9:30 to 3:30,
So two shifts.
might as well.
He's a superstar.
No, I just,
So make sure you put a W there, because there's 2 mics.
and Deb said she could work if you wanted, but you're just looking for BCI now.
I was writing it down.
Okay.
I'm glad to do the first shift and also the one that involves taking ballots to Richmond.
Okay,
Oh, thank you.
and that, going to Richmond, you have to travel with the ballots in the same car.
Carol?
I'd like to do the 3:30 basically through the tally to the end.
Okay,
Kathleen, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Trying to keep, now that my dog is quiet, I can actually unmute. I said, that's my usual shift, Jessica, so go ahead.
Which one?
The one that
3:30.
Carol just did to the end,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I
I can, oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I can do 12:30 to 3, I can do any, but should I just pick 12:30 to 3:30? I can't do any of the later ones, but I could do all the
Okay.
early ones.
Sure.
I can do 9:30 to 12.
The other Mike's right there. Yep. And Jen?
I'm gonna be coming back from Oregon and there's a time change there. I'd rather not do 6:45 in the morning because that is 3:45. Outside of that, I'm pretty flexible.
You want to do the end of the day, the 7 o'clock ballot transfer, which can run late?
Were there already 2 people I would like to not do that because I also have to
Right.
go to work early the next morning, but if it's necessary, I will.
Nope, not necessary.
She can't
Okay.
do that one. Okay. But so we could have you do a slot in the afternoon, you're thinking?
Yeah, anything else in between, if that's okay. But if necessary, I can do anything.
either the 3:30 to 7 or the 12:30 to 3:30, what works better?
12:30 to 3:30 would be better.
Yes. And I'll do 9:30 to 12:30. Unfortunately, I can't do the first shift with kids.
Oh, Carly's not here, so Carly might, she
Carly-
generally does the early
Yeah.
one because of,
They're able to make that work.
kids are out of school.
I'm afraid I am out of town. So I'll take an absentee ballot.
Yeah, make sure. And I will reach out to Dave Schuler. He's helped in the past with the write-in tally,
Yeah.
and I think he enjoys doing it. So I was gonna connect with him.
And if you need me to do the 6:45 instead, just keep that in mind, like, that's fine. If you don't have someone else.
So we have Carol. So Peter, you're actually on the ballot.
Oh, that's
No.
right, I am.
It's not a contested race, but
Right.
it's probably
Yep,
just,
yeah. So, Michelle, you just say, Michelle, you do the 6:45?
I
AM or-
can,
oh, I have
2
Carol
a.m.
and I'll be able to get,
Say it
Dave
again,
Schuler.
Michelle,
Sorry.
AM or
I-
PM?
I can do the AM if
AM.
that's helpful. Yeah, instead of, okay, I'll do that.
Did you say instead of?
Yeah,
Well,
instead of
I-
what you- before.
Yeah, there's
Right.
3 people in that time now, so that would.
Okay,
Then I will reach out to Mary Coburn too, to see if she wants to do the early shift.
so we will need another JP. At the end for counting, if we can find one.
I can help at the end of the day, because
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
be able
because
to
you'll
take
be.
it.
Oh.
Okay, great.
And Tom's good at that.
So just guys do nothing?
Well,
Correct.
probably not results, but yeah,
Okay,
it's,
okay, it's fine.
it's not contested as far as we know.
Right, but who knows?
So we do need one more person to,
Oh, the end of the
Need a
night,
driver.
MMU, yeah.
I thought we usually tried to have. They're usually one Democrat, one Republican,
Yeah.
you do that traveling,
Mary, I feel like Mary would do it often.
right,
I think last year it was Mary
Yeah.
and you,
the last few years.
Do we have any Republicans?
and
Maybe.
Carol Gross has done it. before,
Carol
too.
Gross,
Yeah.
right,
Can't
right,
do that.
but Carol Gross was she on the,
Was she what?
was she on the BCA?
She was
Yeah, she
a
was.
appointed member, yeah.
Right,
Do we need a BCA member to do this?
It does need to be a BCA member,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
So that actually would be open for you.
I can do that?
You could do, that's the school
Right, because
results.
you're-
Oh, to the high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going,
Yep,
it'd be traveling from the high school to Camel's Hump.
yep.
Thanks, Peter. Wow, we did it.
Jessica, is it Camel's Hump or is it the town hall?
So the email I got from Linda said Camel's Hump, but I am actually going to copy all the town clerks and just confirm that it's Camel's Hump, because yeah, with COVID, sometimes it was switching to the Richmond Town Hall.
That's where it was last time, so I just
Yes.
want to be clear that on your
Yeah.
place. Thanks.
So I will confirm that with the Richmond Town Clerk.
Thanks.
So the next steps here is that you'll send your Excel spreadsheet with all of this information for the Tuesday town meeting, in addition to the other folks that you expect to work with.
Yes. And at our last recap after the November election, we talked about having a separate table at the check-in as a point person for voter registration or angry people or something. And I don't know that I'm actually gonna be able to staff that for this election, but it's gonna be a local election and probably less traffic. So, I mean, I'm not gonna schedule myself in a slot, but, I can be floating around again, which we were trying to have like a separate person at the, as that point person.
And even if you deputize, for lack of a better term, someone who's just checking in, I think, that can be that point person, they don't have to have their own table or kind of their own thing. But they can just step up when, that extra help is needed and you're not around, or Megan's not around.
One thing I was thinking of that and sort of reimagining things was, because I know Essex, they have more than one polling place, so the town clerk can't be in every polling place, and so there's actually a presiding officer for that election. So I was wondering about staffing that table, like as a 6-hour shift, have 3 separate people, like a morning person that might cover a little bit with a middle person, and then at the end of the day. And so that wouldn't necessarily have to be a justice of the peace. So maybe I'll stick something on Front Porch Forum to see if there's interest in being kind of an assistant election or a assistant presiding officer, and see what kind of response there is in the community.
I mean, I wonder whether we want that to be a justice of the peace. And we see if there's interest within JPs. I'm just curious what your thought is versus kind of putting it out to the town versus having our election pros do it.
If it's a troubleshooting kind of presiding role, I feel like somebody who would know who, like a JP would be a better option if possible, because they presumably have a little more knowledge, or at least as much knowledge as a random person in town.
So as opposed to a 6-hour shift, do we want to use one of the JPs that we have scheduled? Do we want to have that separate table to kind of try it out and brainstorm?
I have no opinion one way or the other.
Question is, would this person who would be overseeing, or the contact person, if questions came up and you weren't around, would they also be doing check-in? Or would we be adding an additional person?
It'd be a separate table, so it would be an additional person. I think that was the goal, was to kind of get them out of the check-in area to get whatever solved so that they could come back in to vote.
I would agree that it seems like that sort of next level challenge should be someone who's had some experience with how things run, whether it's dealing with someone who, like at the last election, said they hadn't voted when they had voted. Like that's a complicated issue. I think anything that's going to make it to that level of the next
Any significant
step
troubleshooting.
is gonna take someone who you or Megan or somebody who's been doing this for a while. Yeah.
I can drop out of the 9:30 to 3:30 and do that at that time if you want.
I mean, that might be a good way to dry run it, to kind of
See how it
see,
works. As
and you
long
can
as-
write the election manual while you're there.
As long as it includes lunch from Mike.
Yeah, we haven't talked about much. It's Mardi Gras, actually, the election. It's not Mardi Gras.
Instead of election stickers, we're gonna have beads and gumbo. Yeah, yeah.
Beads, okay.
Um,
I got a budget for beads, look out.
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't talked to you, Mike, so I don't know if that's something that you're interested in. We loved you last.
Is our school still out?
School, it's a vacation,
Yeah, I'll do it, sure.
but that may change your
We'll do what?
lunch.
Take lunch.
Oh,
I don't,
We have
Think
you
so.
scheduled 9:30 to 12:30, is that a problem?
depends what it's on the menu. Something can be kind of like, made in a crock pot and
Right.
kind of prepared.
I'll cover for you at 9:30 to 12:30, just so I can be there to eat lunch.
Just like trying to think, that day is like, that's why I picked that time, because I have like a mentor thing in our lessons and stuff, and then my wife has a doctor's appointment until 9 in the morning, so. Yeah, I guess I could do a later one, like at 12:30 to 3:30. I just move some stuff around. Yeah. Change that then.
Then Kathy, you saying you'll do this?
Yeah, I sort of cleared the calendar for the day, so.
I don't have to worry about getting back from that doctor.
So we still need a presiding officer here. Here.
Or I think trying it out during that 3-hour time
6
slot will give us a good,
Oh, so just
I
do
think,
that.
yeah,
Like,
just
do it
doing that.
One time and
It's
then.
better than what we had before,
better
and
than
it will,
nothing and
it'll give us a,
see what happens.
yeah.
And, I would say, I think that maybe it makes some sense to say these other slots, look amongst the JPs and say, who feels comfortable being the Jessica and Megan's backup? Maybe not as formal as Mike,
Mhm.
but, who wants to get in it, if there's any other issues. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Meg, were you about to say something, Megan? Okay.
So I had a question or a thought about the election manual. Jessica, it seems like the material that you have prepared that goes in the front of the binders that explains like 95% of the situations that come up is so helpful and so clearly written that the election manuals already have done.
Mike will be able to finish it in those 6 hours.
What's very interesting is how much each election is different. Like with the presidential primary and you having to choose which party ballot. And then in August, for the state primary, you get all 3 or 4 ballots, and then, it's secret what you're voting. And then in November, the ballot was mailed to you, so now you either bring it to the polls with you or you have to sign an affidavit. So it's actually a very different each type of election, although this 2025 will just be local elections, so we'll definitely get the manual written for local elections. I think that's all I have. Sort of after the meeting, if anyone was interested in the vote tabulator, inspecting the test deck and the results, I actually ran the test deck through the tabulator today, and it counted what it should have counted. And then kind of after the meeting, if there were people interested to know more about notaries or marriages or that can be after. So I think we've done everything except for picking a next meeting date, which, sorry.
I have a brief awareness item. There is a bill in both houses of Congress called the SAVE Act, which would ramp up documentation requirements to register to vote in federal elections. If that does pass, it looks like Vermont would probably have to ramp up its documentation requirements to register to vote. Because I looked at the state elections website and it lists passport, driver's license, bank statement, and utility bill. And the only one of those that proves citizenship is the passport. Vermont does offer an enhanced driver's license, which does prove citizenship. You have to provide more documentation to get an enhanced driver's license. But a standard driver's license will not meet that standard.
I don't like disenfranchising people.
So what would that mean? You would need literally a passport or an enhanced driver's license?
Well, there's some flexibility in the language. It looks like basically you need to prove citizenship. And that could be a challenge.
That's hard.
A married woman who changes her legal name at the time of marriage, the SAVE Act specifically mentions birth certificate. But if a woman changes her legal name at the time of marriage, she probably have to produce
that
one or
documentation. as
more
well.
marriage certificates along with birth certificate. So you have to prove citizenship with documents, which Vermont doesn't really do that.
Well, something to keep an eye on. Thanks. Anyone have upbeat news? No, said flatly.
I do have one thing that might affect stuff here is there's a petition for a 5-person select board, which I am very much in support of. That last I heard has like 500 signatures and it needs 650.
We talked about that before you got here.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you talk about the potential for that to be an election?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Never mind.
Yep. Thanks for making sure.
Do you know, what the plan is? Like if they would hold it for next March or if they would try to,
I don't think you have a choice to hold it to next month. I think you have like I think the select board has like 45 days to deal with it.
when the petition comes through? Yes, but so you don't, the petition the signature
Oh.
gatherers, you don't know what they're,
No, I think that as soon as they get them, I think as soon as they get them, I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I had assumed the answer was just once they get them, they'll hand them in.
okay,
Once they get them and they're feeling confident that there's enough and they're all valid, they won't ruin them all by handing them in and being 10 short because 5 non-citizens
Yep.
signed it or something.
So you wanted to talk about next meeting?
so. So the next meeting would depend, if there is another election, we would have to prepare for that, or it may not be until August to do the checklist challenge. Unless you want to have a different meeting to look at the election manual development.
Figure that out as we go on. Any other business?
When are reappraisals in town scheduled?
I think it's a 2-year cycle, so as far as tax appeals, that
Yeah.
wouldn't be until 2026.
By the way, are the items that are going to be on the March 4th ballot?
What are the items?
Yes, what's on the ballot? The
So
town budget.
I think there's 4 articles, which is the town budget, and then separate is the fire department budget, because it's shared between Jericho, Underhill. And then a question about if we would use the treasurer to collect taxes and if we would set the tax dates. There's two tax installments. So that's it for yes, no questions. The budget is all as one piece. It's not divided, into
Yeah.
amendments that were done. All as one.
I should know this, but I'll ask it anyway. Any officials that the select board's on?
I'm on. Jessica, are you
So
on?
so anyone who's a 1-year term would be up. So the town clerk actually might be the only 1-year term, and then the 3-year terms are select board, so one of the 3 members. Cemetery commissioner, one of the 3 members, and then we have the Jericho Underhill Park District is a 3-year term, I believe, and the library, Jericho Underhill Library District is a 4-year term. And we actually have 2 positions open for the Mount Mansfield School Board of Directors, and that's a 3-year term, and there are 3 candidates running for the 2 positions, so that's the only contested race on the ballot.
Great, thanks for the case.
Anything else? For a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
I'm gonna stop recording.
All over my house.
Thanks, everyone online. Have a great night.
Thank you.